Hello and welcome to Justice. I'm Judge Jeanine Pirro. Thanks for being with us tonight. The Democratic National Committee's convention in Philadelphia was about lovely ideas. It was about unity and inclusion and global humanity, concepts that we're stronger together. Cue the birds and the butterflies and that law library love story of Hillary and Bull. Oh, sorry, Hillary and Bill. It sounded so sweet. They're all wonderful themes. But without addressing whether you can even believe a word that comes out of Hillary's mouth, that kumbaya stuff has absolutely nothing to do with being a leader. A leader is one who drives the economy, creates a strong national defense, and is painstakingly honest. So pull your heads out of the sand and snap out of it. A leader is someone who protects you, who sets the stage so you can make a living and feed your family. What does this kumbaya fest have to do with the crisis that is facing Americans today? And whether you like him or not, Donald Trump talks about real issues. Hillary says he paints a dark, divisive picture of an America in decline. But ask yourselves, are you better off? Do you feel safer than you were before these two got into power? Is America more united than it was? Are race relations better? Is police esteem anywhere near where it was 8 years ago? It was during those Obama-Clinton years that 22 veterans a day committed suicide, not even able to make an appointment with a doctor. And whether you like him or not, Donald Trump is hitting the core issues, asking all the right questions, starting all the right conversations. A man who is willing to take on political correctness that is destroying this nation. Do illegal immigrants coming across our southern border include criminals? After 60 years, is NATO simply an organization in search of a mission? How do we stop ISIS and radical Islam in our homeland? But instead of giving him credit, we denounce him. So who are you going to believe? The one who says she has the best of intentions and a heart of gold? Don't be so naive. Even a hard-boiled egg has a heart of gold. And the last night of the Democratic convention was all theater, political theater. Even Hillary's video was Hollywood orchestrated by Shonda Rhimes, who ironically writes the TV hit Scandal about a president having an affair in the White House. And while the theater of flag waving was going on inside the convention theater, the American flag was being burned outside as Mexican and Palestinian flags were being waved. Hillary, the consummate Washington insider, tells you that she will be your savior.
In my first 100 days, we will work with both parties to pass the biggest investment in new, good-paying jobs since World War II.
Didn't Obama already do that? And I still haven't met one person who got one of those shovel-ready jobs. And then the next day, Hillary starts.
I think that we've got to have more good jobs. We've got to raise wages. We've got to tackle inequality. We've got to make this economy work for everyone, not just those at the top.
All good, except we can't believe a word of your promise. You said the same thing in 2000 when you ran for Senate from New York, promising 200,000 jobs to upstate New York, including farmers suffering from a defeated economy. Not only did you not deliver any of those 200,000 jobs, but New York suffered a net loss of 6,300 jobs. Hillary and they make the economy work for not just those at the top. Aren't you the one at the top? You take your money obscene amounts from Wall Street. How did you go from being dead broke to being worth more than $200 million while in government? And how about that tax-free alleged 501c3 Clinton Family Foundation that's gotten more than $2 billion since you've been in office? That so-called charitable organization, where it's estimated that 85% of expenses are for travel, meals, hotels, airfare for many ex-Clinton operatives, leaving 15% for charities. And I'm not even going to discuss the human rights hating countries that gave you that money and what they got in return from you. But since more than 60% of Americans don't believe a word that comes out of your mouth anyway, let's move on to someone else. General Allen. You gotta love that 4-star kick-ass Marine drill sergeant barking at the convention.
To our enemies, we will pursue you as only America can. You will fear us. And to ISIS and others, we will defeat you. We know that she, as no other, knows how to use all instruments of American power, not just the military, to keep us all safe and free.
Say what? Did she lose those instruments when her ambassador and the men in Benghazi needed help? It was her use of American power as Secretary of State that started the disaster in Libya that culminated in Benghazi. It was while she was in charge of our foreign policy that the JV team ISIS barreled through Iraq and has since arrived on our homeland. It was under her leadership that the whole Middle East went into flames. General, were you even a part of the discussion that led to our early withdrawal from Iraq? Do you support the rules of engagement that tie our soldiers' hands behind their backs in Afghanistan? And while we're at it, you talk about our precious Muslims? Did you make one peep about our precious veterans dying waiting to see a doctor at the Veterans Administration? Did you object to the sequester, the reduction of our armed forces? With all due respect, General, you belittle yourself. And how about the rest of the convention? I get that we're stronger together, but do you really think it's a good idea to showcase those who came here illegally at a national presidential convention? And to showcase the mothers whose sons were killed in law enforcement confrontations? Not the least of which was the mother of Michael Brown. Michael Brown was a thug who had just committed a strong-armed robbery and reached for a cop's gun. And during the hard-fought moment of silence for cops killed by African Americans because they were white, the chants of Black Lives Matter disrespected the silence at the Democratic convention. Now, Hillary Clinton and her husband are fundamentally dishonest. And whether or not you buy the Liars Convention theme of Stronger Together, you still have to deal with the issues confronting America. So let's get rid of the birds chirping and the butterflies fluttering and the long white flowery skirt that Hillary wore. It's all political theater, folks, with lip service to themes of unity and oneness. Just to prove my point, the woman who jeopardized our national security with her private server had her emails hacked again. And for all you women out there who think that electing a female president will lift us all up, just ask yourselves if electing an African-American president lifted up the blacks in this country or made race relations better. It's time to face reality and the ugly truth of the world that we live in and how we're going to survive in it. And that's my open. Tell me what you think on my Facebook page or Twitter. Hashtag Judge Jeanine. And with me now, my political panel to react to my open and all of the latest breaking news, Donald Trump surrogate Republican strategist Boris Epshteyn and Democratic strategist Sasha Burns. All right, guys, let's talk about the convention. Hillary Clinton clearly had a very Hollywood orchestrated convention. Donald Trump had more of the ordinary people. Would you agree?
Well, he had 2 soap opera stars and Scott Baio, so I don't know that I would call that normal. I would call it he couldn't get anybody except for his family and someone who works for him. He couldn't get Jeb Bush. He couldn't get George Bush. He couldn't get George H.W. Bush. He couldn't get John McCain. He couldn't get John Kasich. So was it normal people? It was because Republicans don't want to be near him.
Isn't the fact that Donald Trump, like Bernie Sanders, is an outsider, and that Hillary Clinton is the ultimate insider establishment?
You know what I'd go with?
That's a yes or no question.
Sane and competent. That's what Bloomberg said. You don't have to agree with her.
Okay, go ahead.
Sane and competent.
So we can also about Al Gore wasn't in the Democrat mind. Here's the bottom line: 70% of people in this country feel the country's going the wrong direction. They feel
72%.
They feel so. It's actually between 70 and 80. Certain polls have it as high as 79. They feel the country's going in the wrong direction. They feel that establishment, the Democrat establishment, Barack Obama, Biden, Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, have taken us in the wrong direction. And Donald Trump represents that voice. Of course, the Democrats are going to cry and say, well, you know, somehow it was negative. It wasn't negative. As you said, it was realistic. I was at both conventions. Our convention, the Republican convention, was realistic. It was the voice of the people. The Democrat convention, kumbaya crowd.
Let me ask you this before we waste time. The voice of the people. The truth is that the Democratic convention was more star-studded. I don't think there's any question about that. But when you say that Donald had his children, I think they are his strongest weapon.
Sure, absolutely.
Well, then let's elect one of them for president, not Donald Trump.
The Democrats
because
live in a
they
bubble.
seem
The Democrats
slightly
live in a bubble.
More sane than he does.
The Democrats live in a bubble, and that's why they have these Hollywood stars who don't know what's going on in the real world.
Sasha, did you even hear Donald Trump's his presentation at the convention?
Of course I did. He thinks America is a hellhole. He thinks that our military is terrible.
Did Donald Trump say it was a hellhole?
I don't think that, yes.
Watch your pen,
yes.
please.
Did he say it was a hellhole?
A hellhole. Yes, he has.
You're incorrect.
America is a hellhole.
You're incorrect.
So, excuse me.
He didn't say that. You're mischaracterizing what he said.
That is what he talks about.
Stop. Your statement to our producers said you hadn't seen Trump's speech.
No, I didn't. I, of course, watched Trump's speech. That's somebody else.
That's not, and you didn't say, but I'm sure it was idiotic?
That was the press conference the next day.
Okay, but that
wasn't a speech.
You hadn't seen Trump's speech, but you did see his speech.
Yes, I did.
Okay, all right. So you saw Trump's speech, and you think that this is a man who is not painting a picture of America that's accurate.
Here's what America is accurate. American exceptionalism. We're the greatest country in the world. Our military is the greatest country in the world. We don't need some whiny little man-child to rule us. We don't need him. It is about...
The Democrats are so sad, and they go with personal insults against Donald Trump.
Hillary's never insulted by you guys.
I'll let you talk, so let me finish, okay? Let's look at the facts. 62 million people in this country between the age of 16 and 64 are unemployed. The GDP growth last quarter, 1.2%, anemic. The previous quarter revised to 0.8.
Okay,
the Democrats have failed. They don't get another shot.
What about the fact that Hillary Clinton, in her presentation to the convention, talked to us how she was going to defeat ISIS and basically repeated everything that Obama's been doing? What's so great about Hillary Clinton?
Complete failure.
What do you think Trump is going to do?
No, I know
that's
not what
you know. What do you think he's going to do?
This is what Hillary Clinton did for the whole convention. All she did was talk about Donald Trump and how bad he is. But here's the thing: she's going to do the same thing that Obama did. She's going to add more money to no shovel-ready jobs, and she talked about doing the same strategy against ISIS.
ISIS was born on her watch. ISIS was born on Hillary Clinton's watch.
On Bush's watch, and 9/11 happened on Bush's watch, according to your nominee.
That's pretty rich.
So yeah, does it take a while to defeat ISIS? Yes, it will.
You've had 8 years and you feel you don't get another shot.
Why are they so close in terms of the numbers? You know, the Real Clear Politics, 43-3 versus 43-7. So I guess...
Because the country's sick of the Clintons, that's why.
The country has always been divided. I do want to talk about...
No, the country has never been as divided as it is today. That's what created the outsider drive.
Since when have we had a presidential that wasn't just about 50-50? But let me talk about right track, wrong track, because that's an interesting one. That question has been asked for 45 years. There have been 3 times that it's ever been above 50%.
Right, now it's 70%.
All right, that's enough. Let me ask you a question.
Now it's 70%. The country's in a much worse place than 8 years ago, and you know it.
Do you really feel that this woman can protect you when ISIS grew under her watch?
Absolutely.
Why?
Absolutely, I do. Because she's competent and experienced.
She's never shown that ability to protect you.
Stop. What has she done as senator from New York?
Senator from New York has nothing to do with defending us against ISIS. We're talking about the President of the United States.
Answer my question.
She worked.
Answer my question.
Worked with members of the Senate on both sides of the aisle.
Oh, that's great. What did she pass?
She passed.
What bills did she sponsor that were passed?
She passed.
You don't know.
I do know.
What are they?
Education.
That's
health insurance.
Look, there are 3 bills that she sponsored that were passed. One's renaming a road, the other's renaming a post office, and the other was a resolution where we congratulate her.
While she was Secretary of State, ISIS came into being.
Boris Epstein and Sasha Burns, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Judge.
All right, and another huge issue front and center for Americans voting in November, the economy, and which presidential candidate's plan will help your family the most. With me now is Donald Trump economic advisor Steve Moore. All right, Steve, I understand that you, in fact, were with the candidate today. Is that correct?
Well, the meeting was suspended because he was coming up back from Colorado Springs and didn't get back in time. So we'll be meeting in the next few days. But you know, I have been working with Donald Trump for the last couple of months, and we are going to put forward this week, Judge, either this week or early next week, a very pro-growth economic platform. And
all right, let me ask
by the way,
Steve.
you really nailed it when you said, when you look at Hillary's program, and you said this so well, there is nothing new. In other words, what she proposed was raise the minimum wage, raise taxes on rich people, more shovel-ready projects. We've done that for 8 years. It hasn't worked. What we're going to be talking about is a really dynamic new program to get America back to work again.
All right, I want to ask you about some of the things that were said at the convention by her. She says that anyone willing to work in America should be able to find a job to get ahead. How is that going to happen when, for the last 8 years, that hasn't been the case? What will she do differently?
Well, that's the whole point. Nothing. I mean, I don't know about you, Judge. I didn't hear one new idea in that entire speech. Give more things away for free, raise the minimum wage, and so on. You know, what's really interesting is business, if you listen to that speech, there was very much an anti-rich people, anti-business, anti-employer theme to that speech. And the problem with liberalism, you can't have more jobs if you don't have employers and if you don't have businesses.
Okay.
This idea of bashing our businesses to create jobs, how does that add up?
Well, yeah, and you know what? I can't believe she's part of that 1%, but that's another subject.
That's true.
She said the economy isn't working because democracy isn't working. What did that mean?
I wish I knew what that meant, but it is true the economy isn't working. I mean, my goodness, we've had, just look at the Wall Street Journal front page today, Judge. Worst economic recovery since the 1930s, since the Great Depression. That wasn't the editorial page, that was the news page. I mean, we've gotten more and more bad news. I actually think right now, Judge, that we're not in a recession, but the businesses in America are in a recession. The only thing that's keeping the economy afloat right now is the consumer. And as their wages stagnate, how much longer can consumers do this?
Because we're up against a break.
Yeah.
What is Donald Trump going to do that can change things?
We're going to do 3 things right out of the gate. Number 1, we're going to reform the tax system, biggest tax cut since Ronald Reagan. We're going to cut the business tax rate to the lowest rate in the world so those businesses come back. Number 2, we're going to have a pro-America energy policy to produce our oil, our gas, and coal. We have more oil and gas and coal than any other country in the world. We should be using it. Hillary's against that. Number 3, we're going to repeal Obamacare, and we're going to put in place something that is pro-consumer, reduce costs, because I don't know about you, Judge, but I am not saving $2,500 a year on my health insurance.
Steve Moore, thanks so much for being with us.
Okay, thanks.
All right. That's a clip from my next guest's new documentary, Hillary's America, The Secret History of the Democratic Party. It's currently the top grossing documentary, the #1 documentary of 2016. Filmmaker and author Dinesh D'Souza joins me now. First of all, I guess congrats are in order.
Thank you.
You know, you are killing it with this.
Well, the movie's timely, and you know, we opened it last weekend, so you had the whole big song and dance routine at the Democratic Convention, and we had a counter narrative exposing all that nonsense in 1,200 theaters across the country. So I think it was a wonderful contrast. They were giving us the official story, we were giving people the real story.
Let me ask you something. You know, if you watch, Dinesh, the 2 conventions, it appears that you know, the Democrats are trying to claim that they are the party of the people, the party of the underdog. Is that true?
Well, first of all, I'm a non-white immigrant to America. I came to this country with $500 in my pocket, and I look for a country that has a ladder of opportunity where someone who works hard can move up the ladder. Now, the Democrats initially always talk a good game. Welcome to the country. Welcome to the Democratic Party. We've got something for you. But what do they actually have for you? What they do is they let down a rope. And they say, we don't believe in the ladder. There are no ladders of opportunity. Hang on to this rope. We'll pull you up. But what they do is they pull you up a little bit and they hold. And so you're suspended in midair. You're dependent on them. But they don't actually intend to pull you all the way to the top, because then you're going to walk off and say, I don't need the Democratic Party. And this is what they do with the blacks. This is what they do with the Hispanics. So their claim to be for the underdog is a political scheme. Their only interest is in getting those people's votes and making them politically dependent.
Okay, but how do you prove that? You know, one of the questions that was asked in that little clip was, you know, what is the Democratic Party? You know, what if they weren't really doing or saying what they say they're doing? What are they doing?
Well, let's look at what they've done historically. In a nutshell, what they've done historically is the Democratic Party was the party of slavery. It was the party of segregation, of Jim Crow. Every Jim Crow law, every segregation law in this country was passed by Democratic legislatures. The Ku Klux Klan was the military arm of the Democratic Party for 30 years. Now, these are facts. This is how they've actually treated minorities. But the progressives are really good at writing the history books and covering all this up. So today, if you went to the ordinary black guy and said, which is the party of the Ku Klux Klan? He'd go, well, that's Trump. That's the Republicans.
The Republicans.
Not true. Now, today it's the same thing. The Democrats, I think, look at the Clintons. I mean, they've been on the make since the Arkansas days. Look at Bill. I mean, they were renting out the Lincoln bedroom. They were selling pardons to big-time felons. Hillary was renting out American foreign policy as Secretary of State. She talks about commercial diplomacy. It's been very commercial for her.
As someone who's an immigrant, you said you came to this country with $500 in your pocket. You know, does it crush your idea of America when you hear someone like Jim Comey, after everything that you know, come out and say, oh, you know, she didn't have any criminal intent. She didn't know. She didn't mean it.
Well, Judge Jeanine, you know that I gave $20,000 to a college friend of mine running for the Senate, and I was locked up for 8 months in a federal confinement center under the Bureau of Prisons. Now, no American has ever been locked up for doing what I did. So then I listened to Comey, the FBI director, make the statement about Hillary, listing all the stuff that she did, and then saying, well, we don't find the requisite intent. It's so frustrating that there are the two systems of justice.
Well, frustrating is a very polite word to use, given what you've been through. But do you worry about retribution?
I do a little bit, because I believe the Clintons are unscrupulous, and the Clintons are, there's a gangster element to them. There's a gangster element to Obama too, but at the end of the day, Obama is an ideologue. The gangsterism is kind of the means. So he'll skirt around the immigration laws, he'll ignore the provisions of welfare reform. With Hillary and Bill, I think it's ultimately all about them. They come first. That's why they ignored Benghazi. National security comes second, domestic policy comes second. The welfare of the Clintons comes first, and they'll put themselves ahead of everyone else. This, I think, is so obviously well known that no amount of rhetoric can camouflage it.
Dinesh D'Souza, congratulations on your film, Hillary's America. Thanks for being with us.
My pleasure.
All right, Street Justice is still ahead tonight. I'll get your take on the Hillary Clinton speech. And next, Black Lives Matter and the general election. Fox News contributor and best-selling author Kevin Jackson joins me live to talk about how the lack of respect for the rule of law could have an impact on this race. Welcome back to Justice. The Black Lives Matter movement among those in the spotlight this week at the Democratic National Convention. So what kind of impact will law and order have on the general election and who Americans vote for in November? Joining me from St. Louis, radio host and author of The Big Black Lie, Kevin Jackson. He's also now a Fox News contributor. All right, good evening, Kevin. You know, there was a moment at the convention when I understand it was a fought for moment of silence for the police officers killed in the line of duty, and there were chants of Black Lives Matter. Now, it appears to a lot of people that the Democratic Party was more focused on those who were killed in confrontations with cops, as opposed to cops who were just recently in Dallas and Baton Rouge killed because they were cops.
Right. Well, you know, the last time they had their convention, they booed God, so I guess this is a bit of a step up if you think about it. It was pretty crass. And it's funny to me that the Democrats, the timing of this, as they like to say in politics, the optics coming off of the shootings in Dallas and Baton Rouge, that they would actually pull something like this to have the women up there, the mothers of these, and in some cases, the mother of Michael Brown, who's nothing but the kid was a thug, and his mother raised a thug. And, there's so many things that I think about when I think about the buoy or the statement that was made during the silence for the cops, but also the fact that these people were invited to speak, and that was representative of black family. I mean, when you juxtapose that to Trump, who had his family there, and the Democrats were deriding Donald Trump for having such a strong presence of family in his election cycle. They deride Donald Trump.
I got to tell you, Kevin, we just had a guest here tonight who was doing the same thing, deriding Donald Trump because he had his family talk on his behalf. And I said that they're like his strongest weapons. They're real. They are proof of the pudding. But I digress. I watched that lunatic that you interviewed. You did a great job with her. But the fact of the matter is, Judge, that they want to denigrate family when that's the strongest thing that America has to offer. The fact that we do have, when you're doing things right in this country, it is built on strong families. When Donald Trump's dad gave him $1 million, the left had a conniption. That's what fathers do. And the fact that Donald Trump took that money and made himself a success, that's what every parent wants for their child. But the left looks at that as, look at what he did. It's incredulous. Kevin, let me ask you this. Isn't Black Lives Matter, that had its genesis in Ferguson and Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, isn't that nothing more than an attempt to convince African Americans that they are being targeted so that it creates the opportunity to, kind of round up the vote, get everybody charged up?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's yet another dog whistle with people who have no direction because they lack the support system that says, don't fall for this nonsense. My kids would never go for something like this. They wouldn't be ginned up because some kid like Michael Brown got shot on a lie, the lie that was perpetrated by the left. And even in the cases where police officers do shoot people erroneously, it doesn't mean you have to go burn down your city. I mean, when you think about Black Lives Matter, Judge, none of those people could name you the last cop that was killed by name. And we're talking about one that got killed just the other day in San Diego, and now a total of like 10 in the last couple of weeks. They couldn't name you one. They couldn't name you the last black child in any city that was killed by other black people.
What I find amazing, Kevin, is that they had the mayor from Baltimore at the convention. She was at the helm. And if you recall, she's the one right after Baltimore when they were burning and looting and the arsonists were out there and stealing and robbing from their own community. It's reported that she said, let them blow off some steam.
Right. Well, she's the Susan Rice of burning down cities because she'll probably get promoted. And as you see, she was featured at the Democrat convention for being a failure as a mayor. She's already paid the family of Freddie Gray over almost $7 million. Nobody's been indicted and obviously won't at this time. She's got
convicted. They've all been indicted, but all those charges have been dropped. If they weren't acquitted or hung jury, the charges were, it's over. And the city gave him $6 million or $7 million before there was even a conviction.
Yeah, $6.8 million before anything ever hit the streets. Not to mention, what is the toll to the taxpayers of Baltimore for the people burning down the city? So, look, it was built on a lie. It's a terrorist group, is what it is, to be honest with you.
All right. Kevin Jackson, thanks so much for being with us tonight.
My pleasure.
All right, I take on Hillary's speech in this week's Street Justice, still ahead. And next, how can Donald Trump capture the all-important millennial vote? I'm joined next by a political author and commentator, Sal Lamastra, to talk about it. Stay with us. The gloves are off and the battle to win votes is in full swing. So could the millennial vote end up being one of the most crucial voting blocks in this extremely tight race between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton? Let's ask author, commentator, and a millennial, Sal Lamastra. All right, Sal, the millennials, tell us exactly who they are.
Those are 18 to 35-year-olds who have grown up the last 8 years. They've got President Obama into office, the largest, youth vote participation in 08 and 012. And, they've grown up since then. And coming into 2016, they're looking for jobs and they're looking for safety from terrorism.
Okay. Now, Bernie Sanders had the majority of them, and there's been a lot of talk this week about whether or not, they're going to go with Hillary or whether they actually hate Hillary because Bernie told them that the convention and the nomination was rigged, which appears to be the case based on what happened at the DNC and Deborah Wasserman Schultz. But more than that, where do you think they're going to go? Will they go to a third-party candidate, Johnson, or will they go to Donald Trump, or will they sit home?
So this is an interesting voting bloc that is in a little bit of a flux right now. So since the Bernie Johnson endorsement of Hillary Clinton, Johnson went up about 5 points in the polls. And then after the RNC, he went back down to his 9%, which shows that Trump kind of regained some of those Bernie supporters. And you have that recent Pew poll out that says 90% of Bernie Sanders supporters are going to back Hillary. Well, that poll is false the way they did it. Because if you factor in Johnson, Jill Stein, the Green Party candidate, or people who say they just won't turn out at all, it brings down Hillary's support with Bernie Sanders supporters to 30%. So a lot of those supporters are looking for someone to fight against the rigged system. It's one of the top 4 issues for millennials this time around, especially Bernie Sanders supporters. And, that falls solely on Donald Trump fixing the rigged system and not Hillary Clinton. So it'll be interesting to see where they go. And it's a voting bloc that has to be won, has to be given attention by Donald Trump to win those. But yes, they're going to go to Johnson, Trump.
How does he win millennials? What message does he have to send?
So first, it's building an organization that can target them. He doesn't have anyone really running the youth vote right now, which I think will change very soon. But what he has going forward is it's all about messaging. Messaging is the most important. So Donald Trump's big thing, is dealing with, the wall. Let's just pick that one, for instance. He talks about building the wall to stop illegal immigration. Well, millennials are the most diverse generation in American history. So what Donald Trump has to do is relate that back to terrorism, which is the #2 issue for millennials. So when he talks about building a wall, it's to protect you, to, enforce homeland security. And that's how you win millennials, is messaging. If you look at the polls and with the Harvard IOP polling, millennials support most of Donald Trump's policies. They're just not being messaged correctly to win them over.
Okay, and so you'd say that Donald is bringing someone on to organize the millennials?
Well, I believe he will be. I mean, if you looked at his Florida speech a few days ago, he talked about coming out with a policy in the next few weeks to deal with the student loan debt crisis and the cost of education in this country. So it shows me that he is looking towards this crucial youth vote. I mean, the youth vote, I think, will go dramatically down than what we've seen in the last 2 elections. I believe it will fall under 50% participation this time around because of disenfranchised voters. But in the key swing states where the election is tied right now, those key young voters are going to be the key between Donald Trump winning the White House or losing it.
More important, you believe, than the independents?
The independents are a big part of the millennial generation. About, I think it's 40% identify as independents than any other party. But if you look at party affiliation with millennials, all of their number 1 and 2 issues are the economy and homeland security, which is what Donald Trump triumphs in. Right. So, again, I'll go back to messaging. He has to do that messaging to win them.
Sal Lemastro, thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Judge.
All right. The wait is over. Almost. Street Justice is next. It's finally time for some street justice, and this week I was back on the streets of New York to ask people what they thought of Hillary's speech. And as always, it got interesting. Take a look. What do you think of her speech?
Well, she's not very trustworthy, as usual.
Yeah.
And she's always bringing Trump down.
Don't you want to hear what a potential president is going to do for you?
No, she's not going to win the election.
How do you know?
I know.
Let's go Trump! Yeah, whoa! Come on out here, guys. Who are you voting for?
Good.
What has Hillary done for you?
I think it's time. I think it's time for a woman, and the alternative is Donald, and I don't think I can live with that.
Trump.
Why?
All the way. Many reasons. How many hours have you got?
I like your hair. You have purple in your hair.
Thank you.
Why do you have and I have red in it. So why do you have purple in your hair? You don't know?
No, it's just the color. It's a nice color.
Has she proven herself to be someone who is supportive of other women? Or has she trashed all the women who came into her husband's life?
No comment?
Why do you want to vote for Hillary?
I don't want to vote for Hillary.
You want to vote for Trump?
Yes,
just
I do.
Trying to make sure you remember.
I think he'd be the best candidate for this country because he's going to be strong on foreign policy. He's a businessman. He's the one who's for change.
You're not saying anything?
No.
Did you forget the question?
No, I didn't forget the question.
Did you put your cigarette out?
I think I did on my butt, yes.
Oh, she's on fire for Hillary!
Well, I think Clinton's old school politics. I think she's, we call her a hood robin. She steals from the poor and gives to herself. So.
I never heard that one. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Good Robin. Who are you voting for?
Who I'm voting for? Clinton.
Clinton!
I think she'd be better than Trump. Trump talk a lot of mess.
Trump talk a lot of mess, but Trump signs in front of a lot of checks. What about the fact that she lies all the time? She's lied to your face on television at least 50 times.
Okay, what about Trump?
Oh, he hasn't lied to me.
Well, he lied to a lot of other people out here.
Who?
He want to take them. He want the Muslim to come into the country.
No, he said until we can figure out a way to vet them. He just doesn't want us to have our heads cut off. You know, that's kind of bothersome.
First of all, she's making history being the first woman.
Or herstory, yeah. Get it? Yeah. With a hard hat. He doesn't look very friendly. Why are you going to vote for Hillary?
Probably the lesser evil of the two.
What about the fact that like 70% of Americans think she lies?
Well, they all lie.
They all say the same thing. They all lie. You know, that's like a murderer. Oh, they all commit murder, Judge, so don't worry about it.
It's either her or Donald. And right now, Donald is not looking that good to me either.
Yeah?
So,
but what do you say to the people who say it'd be good for the economy? Get some jobs and buildings going.
I think that's crap.
You know what? I think she's not the best person for the job, whether she's a woman or not.
Okay, and what about the fact that you have a lovely daughter next to you?
Yeah, what about that?
Yeah?
She might be a better president. What do you think?
My best vote would be Democrat.
Okay. All right, that's good. That's good. You know anybody who went to Benghazi?
No, not at all.
You may want to talk to some of them before you make your final decision. We'll be right back. Before we leave tonight, don't forget, if you're looking for a great beach read for the summer vacation, pick up my book, He Killed Them All, Robert Durst, My Quest for Justice. It's on sale now everywhere. Go online, go to Amazon, go wherever you want to go, but buy it. That's it for us tonight. Remember, friend me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at Judge_Jeanine. Thanks so much for watching. Greg Gutfeld Show is next. See you next Saturday night and have a great week.